What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. Don't let the world change you, change it. So this was inspired by Mike Tyson, actually. It was a clip of him on hotboxing on YouTube with him and Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley is like, look, man, if you cross me, I'm going to just cut you off like I ain't never known you. And Mike Tyson was like, no, that's wrong. And Saquon was like, how's that wrong, basically? And Mike Tyson basically started saying, listen, if a person changes you because they crossed you, they become your master. So you don't, and I'm prefaces, I'm guessing he's not saying you don't have to let them in, but you don't have to make the situation change you. They crossed you. You don't have to change for life. You know what I'm saying? Be aware that these things might happen, but don't let it change who you are at your core. If you're a happy-go-lucky person before you got crossed, be a happy-go-lucky person after you get crossed. Even if you come around in the presence of the same person, don't all of a sudden be happy-go-lucky and then, don't do that. And it really enlightened me. And if Mike Tyson would ever see this, thank you. He went from Jack Dempsey to George Tunney. I think that's this guy is George Tunney. I think it's the guy that beat Jack Dempsey. He was a real smart. He came off as an astute heavyweight, avid reader, this, that, and the third. But Mike Tyson is a bit of both of those guys. Like, he's always been that. He's kind of been a philosopher in a sense. But people just look at the wild side. But when you actually, like, him and Tupac are similar like that. Anyway, but then it brings me to this guy, Muhammad Ali. And I was watching Blood Brothers on Netflix, the story of him and Malcolm X, Malik El-Haj Shabazz. And I was like, wait, Muhammad Ali didn't change. And that's why people have loved him so much, because he never changed. He was always charismatic. He was always a big talker. Before he was Muhammad Ali and he was Cassius Clay, they called him the Louisville Lip. This is, prior, even when amateurs, when he won a gold medal, he was the Louisville Lip, So when he became Cassius Clay, of course, when he became known to the public as Cassius Clay, and when he changed his name to Muhammad Ali, the person never changed. It's just the name changed, and how can I say, the message shifted a little bit, but he was still a big talker. He was still a fun-loving person. He still interacted with everybody. He was still charismatic. He was still a person who was polarizing. You get what I'm saying? And I found it interesting because the adversity didn't change him. He changed the world, because there was an interesting scene in that documentary where when Cassius Clay at the time, was at the Olympics. I think it was Spain. I'm not certain at the time. Sorry about that. There was not segregation, and that threw him off. Like, this is the world you could live in. And when he came back to Jim Crow, segregation, and which was part of the beginning of the journey to the Nation of Islam. So ultimately, by the time it was all said and done, his approach is partially what helped change the world around us. Him and numerous other figures at the time, but he's one of the prominent ones also. And I thought about it like, at the end of the day, I find it interesting that it may be difficult for us to stay the same. When people talk about religion, they talk about God's unchanging hand. So God is who God is, and that's who God will be. I think it's the difficulty for us as human beings is, can we remain unchanged? Can we remain steadfast in, this is who I am, regardless of what adversity life throws at me? I am this way. This is my nature, and I love me so much that I will not change my nature because the world around me is uncouth. You know what I'm saying? And irrational, and this, that, and the third. And I find that one of the things that we probably have the most difficulty with in our life, because the trends change. And when trends change, people change parts of themselves to fit in with the trends, and people don't, you know, we try to assimilate so much in so many different ways. We might consider, I'm not assimilating to the mainstream, but I'm assimilating to the fringe, the niche, you know. But did that change you? You know, did you become something you weren't? Or did you just do something a little bit different and stay who you were? And if you can't stay who you are when you go into a next phase, then you could probably never be the best, quote unquote, version of you, because you let everything in the world mold you. So your clay and the world is the sculptor, instead of you being a sculptor and the world being your clay. But I'm done. Like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.